Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Intelligent Place in the relationship subreddit. The post is titled, "My GF is terrible with finances. I no longer want to get married, my girlfriend of 3 years is terrible with finances and I want to call off the marriage. Well, my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years now. Let me also include that I plan on purchasing a home next year. We have discussed her financial struggles, yet there seems to be no change at all. I love her, but I don't know what else to do. When I met my girlfriend, I was living with my sister, and she was unfortunately living in a shelter. This was a shock to me, as when we used to meet up, we always met at a park or near a restaurant. She told me that her roommates didn't enjoy her company and that she had a curfew to be back home at a certain time. During this time, I wasn't questioning it. I just went with the flow until I asked a friend about what they thought about it and came to find out my friend was right. This didn't change my views on her, as I didn't mind because we were still young and figuring life out. But what always made me curious was that when I met her, she would always carry wads of cash around with her and we would go to expensive restaurants and she would always offer to pay. 2 years later, we moved to another state and settled down. She knew how important this was because moving to another state is serious, and I let her know that we had to stay on top of things. It started off great, and a few weeks down the line, after signing a lease, she would always be short on rent. Aside from that, the small bills that she would be responsible for wouldn't get paid. About 7 months after moving in together, the car that she worked hard for got repossessed, and I had to take money out of my savings to get her a new one. I've been paying her part of the rent for the past 4 months, and she recently just got a lump sum of money. I encouraged her to save at least $1,000 and put the rest aside for bills. Yesterday, I asked her about her progress and she told me that she only had about $40 left in total from her lump sum of cash. We're talking about $5,000 spent in approximately 5 days. I was heated. Actually, I still am mad about this. We were thinking of marriage and now I am unsure if this is really what I want to deal with for the rest of my life. I don't know if I'm overreacting or what. I just want to live a comfortable life, but sometimes I feel like my girlfriend keeps putting us in bad situations where we are struggling. Should I continue this relationship or should I just move on? Killing Me Smalls said, if her house isn't full of recent purchases and she's blowing through money that quickly, then the only logical explanation is that she has a drug problem. The fact that she had wads of cash when you first met suggests that she was either dealing or involved in some other illicit activity. There is definitely no salvaging the relationship. Fanfear Wenders said, I suggest you dump her. I had the same problem years ago in a relationship that lasted almost 9 years. This never gets better, believe me. You want a woman who solves problems, not one who creates them. Hotspur said, so the thing about her carrying a bunch of cash early in the relationship is twofold. First, she probably couldn't get a credit card and she may not have been able to hold on to a bank account. Secondly, unfortunately, this is a common tactic of scammers. If you see me with money and I'm generous with it, you're not going to notice that I'm taking twice as much out of your back pocket as I'm putting in your palm. If you knew someone was totally broke, you'd be way more skeptical about covering them. But if they have money, whatever, people tend to be less vigilant. You get me, and you don't notice that you've helped her a lot more times than the reverse. I'm not saying she's a scammer necessarily. That can be a necessary survival skill at certain times. Understanding how the appearance of having money changes how people treat you. Stuff like the car getting repossessed is a 5-alarm fire because there was a time for her to come to you for help. But she's still either in denial, hoping she can wish her problems away, or stick her head in the sand. But I think this latest incident, hey, she got paid $5,000, didn't pay off her bills, and now it's gone, is clearly time for a reckoning. You need to know exactly where that money went, or you're done with the relationship. And I wouldn't even think about marrying this person until she demonstrated multiple years of being able to be basically financially self-sufficient. Getting her car repossessed while you're paying chunks of her rent speaks to some deep problems. This next post was made back in 2015 by a throwaway account and is titled, My boyfriend of 1 year is starting to gross me out. This is really awkward and embarrassing to share, but I can't think of anywhere else to get advice. I've been dating James for just over a year. We have a really good relationship and we are good at communicating any issues that come up. I am very much in love with him and we are happy. Now, maybe he is very comfortable with me now, which I know is a good thing, but I'm very frustrated and I don't know if it's just me. This is the only issue I have with him. He's just constantly farting and burping and it's starting to really gross me out. It feels stupid to even type that, but it's really become excessive. We are both graduates from school and work full time. We do not live together, but he is starting to move into my apartment. This started about 5 months into our relationship and it has gotten progressively worse. He will burp constantly and blow it into my face to the point where I will start dry heaving because he thinks it's funny. He does the same thing with farting, always trying to do it on me because he thinks it's hilarious. I know it's normal, I grew up with 4 brothers, but he is constantly forcing it to happen. This is not just once or twice. We have spent almost every night together for the past 6 months and it will happen all night. I have asked him to please stop because I find it really gross, especially the burping, as he will do it in my face and it turns my stomach. He will apologize but still continue to do it. Or he will lean in for a kiss and burp in my face instead, then laugh himself to tears when I act disgusted. I thought maybe at first he was just really gassy and I should be more understanding because it's a natural bodily function. He does not do this when we are out to dinner or with friends. A few months ago, we went to a wedding together with some members of his family, and he accidentally burped really loudly, like he normally does when he is alone with me. Our table went really silent and glared at him. I didn't want him to be embarrassed, so I high-fived him and said, "Good one," and the whole table started laughing and cheering. Afterwards, he pulled me aside and said he was thankful I did so, as he was humiliated. I was a bit drunk and frustrated, so I asked him why he does it to me constantly, but won't do it in front of other people. His reasoning is that I am his girlfriend and he should be able to play around with me like that. He said I was being a typical girl for finding it rude, uptight, and high maintenance. I didn't want to argue about it, so I told him I was none of those things and he knew it. Let's cut the bull, we'll talk about it later when we're sober and just have a fun time at the party for now. And we did. But it never changes. I've tried to make plans to be out of the house when we see each other because even though it seems ridiculous, it's starting to stress me out. I can't talk to any of my friends about it because they think it's so funny. He is a very sweet guy. I like spending time with him, but I feel nauseous when we are alone together because it's just so gross. He is starting to work longer shifts, so he wants to stay in a lot most nights to relax. He started doing it during sex as a joke, and our sex life has really suffered because of it. A few nights ago, he was texting me before he got off work, complaining about his day, and he seemed really stressed out. So I told him I would come over and make his favorite dish to help him forget about it. So I went over to his house and started cooking until he was off. After dinner, he leaned in to kiss me and I turned my head because I'm so used to him burping in my face. We had an argument because he was accusing me of cheating because we haven't been having sex. I told him it was because of the burping and he said I needed to get over it, that he was only joking and I was being such a prude. He said his girlfriend shouldn't reject a kiss from him. I told him that I've been saying this is a problem for a while. I don't think it's funny at all. I have thrown up because of it, and I just kind of lost it. I don't really yell at people, I am a calm and collected person, so I scared him a bit. I told him it was disgusting, and I'm getting to the point where I'm no longer attracted to him, that I've been trying so hard to be understanding, but it's a two-way street. It wasn't to me about something being gross or funny anymore, it was about respect. He kind of got defensive, trying to say how I was overreacting and being ridiculous, but I shut it down and he apologized because he apparently didn't know I felt so strongly about it. He said he would try not to do it anymore at all. I don't care that it happens. I only care that he forces it, etc. Now, having talked it out for the next couple of hours, he actually didn't try to burp in my face or fart on me. I was so happy I could enjoy cuddling my boyfriend without trying not to vomit. So I started unzipping his pants to help him forget about his bad day. You already know where this is going. It's humiliating, but I'm going to type it out anyway. As I was trying to perform oral sex on him, he pushed my head down so I couldn't get away and tensed up and started farting loudly while laughing. I was so frustrated I started crying immediately. I think he realized he did something wrong because he let go of my head and tried to hold me and he kept saying, "I'm sorry, I thought you meant to do it less. I thought it was going to be funny to break the tension from before." But I got up and left his apartment. That was 2 days ago. He has tried calling me and texting me constantly. I have not responded. His messages range from being very apologetic to very angry, back and forth. I don't know what to do, and I feel like this relationship is over, but I still love him. I also feel really gross and, in a way, violated. Our mutual friends have been texting me as well, asking if everything is okay, and I've tried explaining the situation to my best friend, but he found it hilarious, so I'm afraid to explain it to anyone else. This is just so stupid. I literally feel like I'm crazy. Maybe I am uptight, etc. I also have a lot of his stuff over here that belongs to him, and I'm worried he will come back to get it and I'll have to face him. What should I do? Am I just overreacting? Update. Thank you to everyone who replied to my original post, and also to those who sent me private messages. I wasn't really expecting as much support, but I'm glad that I'm not alone. Last night I was pretty miserable and just felt confused and sick about the whole thing. It really helped me deal with what I was feeling and rationalize things, reading what everyone had written. I just want to clear a few things up before I get into how this has climaxed for me. My boyfriend did not start out doing this constantly. I remember the first time he did it. I was confused and told him right away that I did not like it calmly, and he seemed to understand. I have never laughed when he did it purposely. I know the difference between an accident and what he does. A lot of the replies helped me examine my relationship as a whole. We have had other problems that seem to fit the same pattern. He had the same behavior with driving very fast for fun, and he had the same issue with playfully pinching and tickling, but he was doing it so hard that it would leave bruises. I always expressed that I did not like this, but he was insistent that I was overreacting. When I showed him he was actually hurting me, he stopped completely and never did it since. I didn't think it was an important thing to bring up. I think it's a bit harsh to call him abusive because he respected that boundary. I know a lot of people were suggesting that I do the same thing to him or retaliate in the same way, and it might sound nice to entertain that fantasy, but I'm really not like that. I will never let someone else's actions define who I am as a person. I know I will never try to intentionally hurt someone, and that gives me faith in myself. A few of you made me really cry because before I wrote my post, I was completely unsupported and I felt alone and well. Really ridiculous and dumb. So thank you very much for taking the time to help me, even though I'm a stranger and none of you owe me anything, let alone your time and kindness. Thank you. Now, on to today. I have not replied to any of James's messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him it was over and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it, that everything is okay with me, but the relationship is over between us. One post said I didn't have to explain the situation completely, so I did that. They seemed very understanding, except one replied saying, over a one-time incident, get real lol, but whatever, so long as you're happy. It didn't really bother me because I know the truth. It was hurtful that James may have lied, but I'd rather surround myself with people who value honesty. I also invited my best friend over and asked him if he could help me box all of James's belongings, to which he agreed right away. He kept asking me what happened and if I was okay, so I showed him this post and he was disgusted. He apologized for laughing when I had tried to tell him earlier because he said he didn't know it was so serious. He offered to take James's belongings to him, but I made him promise not to be hostile or I'd ask someone else. He agreed. We spent a lot of the day in my apartment when the front door opened. It's hard for me to articulate myself, but I'll try to type it exactly as it happened. We both heard it and stopped talking immediately. It was James. I'm not going to lie. I was immediately frightened and maybe I could have handled it better, but I kind of just stood there. I just didn't expect to see him. He has never shown up at my home or work without a warning. My friend asked him, "What the think you're doing here?" James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" My friend stepped in front of him and handed him one of the boxes and told him he could take his stuff and leave, that it was over and I didn't want to talk to him. James laughed and made a move towards me, saying I needed to talk to him alone, but my friend moved in front of him and told him that he shouldn't be in my house uninvited, that it was illegal and he was going to call the police. Then James got really mad and twisted his face all weird, and I can't explain it, but he started yelling and it was like he wasn't the same person at all. He called me a slut and a cunt and said that I was some ridiculous princess and he just kept going. My friend told him, "That's nice, now you need to leave or I'm going to make you." And then James threw down his box and punched my friend in the face. I don't remember exactly, but my friend fell back and James came up to me and grabbed me and started shaking me, saying I was stupid for throwing this all away and that I was probably sleeping with my friend. I was very afraid and I couldn't believe this was happening. My friend got up and grabbed him by the back of his shirt and threw him off me and shoved him out of my apartment. James ran away down the hall, kicking people's doors and screaming. My neighbor had come out of his apartment and asked what was going on, and I told him to call an ambulance because my friend was bleeding from his nose. I was so embarrassed. At the hospital, I kept embarrassing myself, crying and apologizing to my friend while we were in the waiting room. His nose is broken, he keeps making Owen Wilson jokes and impressions, but he is okay. Now I am at my friend's house because I am afraid to go home. He said I can stay with him for as long as I need to. I feel really awful that my friend got his nose broken because I was a bad judge of character. I also feel really guilty that I got so scared I just kind of stood there and let my friend get hurt. My friend is taking me to the police station to file a report, but I just want this whole thing to be over. However, he is being insistent because I need to do this to ensure my safety. This is my first relationship and I don't even know if this person was real. I didn't think this was even possible. I don't understand what I missed and I feel like I'm vibrating inside because of how frightened I am. I want to go home to my apartment, but I'm afraid he will come back. The way my head is doesn't make any sense. I feel ashamed even writing all of this because it was from something so small and juvenile. So I don't know if I'm just handling it weirdly or if my head is blowing it completely out of proportion. How do I proceed now after I file a report? Has anyone been in this same situation before? How do people hide that kind of anger for over a year? Why did this happen? I'm sorry for the questions, but I just can't make sense of my own thoughts right now. Blue Crayon said, the thought of someone holding my face down and farting in it makes me want to throw up. What the hell? To this Pez dispenser said, I almost wish she had vomited right on his face so he could see if he'd laugh that off. But given how he reacted, he's a full-blown psycho, and hopefully she never has to see him again. Amalora said, ladies, if your man makes you scared or physically hurts you on purpose or tells you your boundaries are unreasonable, he is trying to normalize his abuse. It starts off as pinches that bruise, too much tickling, and too hard butt slaps. But it will escalate to slaps and punches. The driving too fast is so that when you tell them they are scaring you, they can gaslight you into believing that you are the unreasonable one and then use that as a base to escalate. This is calculated. Your ex did not become violent out of nowhere. He had been physically, mentally, and emotionally abusing her almost since the beginning. It was a slow manipulation, so she acclimated to it. He lost it because he lost control of her. The bitch King of Angmar said, this whole post was so visceral for me because my best friend married a guy just like this. It could have been written about him. He really enjoyed making her uncomfortable. He got off on pushing her boundaries and causing her distress, especially because she was a very prim and proper girl. He disgusted me in every way, but my best friend always needed to see the good in people and just couldn't see that his behavior was abusive. He pushed and pushed her boundaries and pushed some more until she was almost unrecognizable. And when I couldn't take it anymore and started begging her to leave him, he made her choose. She and I didn't talk for 2 years. They stayed together for 6 years and had 2 kids before he finally crossed an unforgivable line for her, and she got out. I still want to vomit thinking about him. This absolutely would have continued to get worse for OP. I'm so glad she got out. This third post was made in the relationship advice subreddit by a throwaway account in 2020. The post is titled, "Fiancé wants to end our relationship because I didn't choose him first." I'm sorry if this whole thing sounds a little rushed, but my fiancé Ryan, who I've been with for 7 years, told me today that he's not sure whether he wants to be with me anymore. I realize it may sound stupid, but I love him so much and it feels like my world is falling apart around me. I don't know what I can do. This all started a couple of days ago when we were celebrating our anniversary. We invited a bunch of people, including one of my closest friends, Ellie. She noticed my fiancé being affectionate towards me and made some stupid comment about how she told me so that Ryan would be better for me than my ex Andy. My fiancé was a little confused and asked Ellie what she meant. Back when I was in college, Andy and Ryan both asked me out to the same event. I'd known Ryan since high school and we'd always had a thing, but we weren't a couple. On top of that, he went to another college that was a half-hour drive away from me. Andy went to my college, his dorm was a 5-minute walk away, and he was someone completely new. I began to feel like my relationship with Ryan wouldn't be exciting enough because we already knew almost everything about each other. With the added headache of being half an hour away from each other, despite Ellie's protests, I decided to go with Andy. I know my reasoning is beyond stupid, but I never thought that this decision had the potential to blow up my future. Ryan was already hurt that I declined his request to go on a date. I didn't want to make him feel worse by telling him that I was going with someone else. During this time, it became obvious that Andy and I weren't right for each other, so we ended it. When Ryan and I began talking again, I realized how much I missed him and that he was perfect for me, so I asked him out. He was overjoyed, and that's how we got to this point. For the rest of the party, I could tell that his mood was off. He kept pulling away from my kisses and touches and responded to me with short one-sentence answers. After the party, when I asked him what was wrong, he just said that he felt sick. For the next 2 days, he continued to be cold and distant. I had no idea what was happening, so I waited patiently for him to become comfortable enough to tell me. Today, he told me the reason he'd been acting off. From the story, it sounded like I had kept him as my backup or plan B in case my relationship with Andy failed, and that it was especially messed up since we'd obviously had feelings for each other long before then. He also said that he deserved to be someone's first choice. I thought that this was just an insecurity that we could get through, but then he went on to say that he's not sure whether he can see our relationship in the same light anymore, so it might be best if we split up. I pleaded with him that we don't need to take it that far and that we should go to counseling or even just live separately for a few days while he thinks about whether this is what he actually wants. So far, he hasn't said anything except that he absolutely refuses to go to therapy. I can tell that this is weighing on him heavily because he's been drinking more than usual, but I don't know what to say to make him feel better. We've had a beautiful relationship. He's never been overly jealous or possessive, and although neither of us is perfect, I couldn't ask for a more loving, respectful, intelligent, and charming husband. I don't understand how all of that could come to an end for a foolish mistake that I made 7 years ago. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for by posting on here, but if anyone has any advice, please let me know. Update. So a few people have asked for an update. It's been a little over 2 weeks now, so I'm not sure if anyone is even interested anymore. I think that for now, I'm just confused about what's happening. If anyone has any advice or has some idea of what he's thinking, please tell me. After what happened in the last post, he said that we should put off the wedding while we decide how to proceed. That means something, right? He used the exact words put off instead of cancel and while we decide how to proceed. I think that means he hasn't decided that we should break up yet. Maybe he'll just decide not to get married, but to continue our relationship. I don't think he's ready to give up our relationship yet, but he's moved into a hotel. I know some people have told me to give him space, but I've decided that even if a part of him is willing to stay with me, I'm going to do everything I can to give us another chance. I've been dropping off food, leaving notes under his door, and we've been calling every day, sometimes twice a day. Right now, we're both stuck in limbo. Most of the time, we talk about how much we miss each other, the plans we had, and me convincing him that he's my soulmate and that regardless of whatever happened with Andy, I know we would have ended up together. Then there are other moments where he calls in the middle of the night, having obviously been crying, and asks questions like, what did he have that I didn't? Did you love him? Was he better in bed? Was he better looking than me? Do you still think he's better looking than me? What does more exciting mean? Do you wish he gave you another chance? He says that he wants to be with me desperately, but when he thinks about me, it's seared into his mind that I was always his first choice, but he will always have been my second. It hurts him that we had feelings for each other all the way through high school, but the moment I met Andy, none of that meant anything anymore, which must have meant I thought Andy was worth my time, and he wasn't. It breaks my heart to hear him holding back his tears and trying to cry silently, but I swear I'll do anything to save our relationship, and part of that means not hiding anything from him. I've begged him to reconsider going to therapy, but he absolutely will not budge. Some of our mutual friends are saying that they're not sure if he'll recover from this, but I don't care. He hasn't told me to stop trying, so I'm not going to. I wish to God that I could go back and change the past because I love him more than anything, including myself. It feels like I'm in some sort of surreal nightmare. Less than a month ago, we were lying in bed fighting over which of us got to name our kids, and now a seemingly insignificant mistake that I made 7 years ago might wipe away the beautiful future I want with Ryan. All I can do right now is be there and hope that he can give me another chance, but I don't know what he's thinking. I know this isn't a common relationship problem, but if anyone has anything they can give me, whether it's advice or even reassurance that things are going to work out, please tell me. Edit, he called an hour ago. Some of his friends found this Reddit post and showed it to him, so he called angry, asking why I would tell strangers about our personal problems and how he is supposed to face his friends and family now that they all know that the only reason I'm with him is because Andy broke up with me. After reading the comments, he realized that it wasn't right for him to keep me in the dark for so long without making a decision. He's decided that we should go our separate ways so that I can decide whether it really is him that I want to be with and that he wasn't just the convenient choice. For now, I can't describe how I'm feeling. It's like I'm so tired, I just want to go to sleep forever. I know some of you have the impression that he's a horrible man, but this was just a small fragment of our relationship and it doesn't reflect who he is as an individual in the slightest. He's the guy who spent days learning about my major on top of his own studies so that he could help me study for exams and proofread my coursework. He spent thousands of his own hard-earned money to give my parents their dream vacation to Australia and insisted that I say I paid for it because they'd feel bad taking money from him. When my ex threatened to leak nudes that I'd sent him when we were together, I was terrified that he would leave. He took me out to my favorite restaurant and said that there was nothing anyone else could do or say that would ever affect how much he loves me, and then he asked me to marry him so I'd never have to worry about him leaving ever again. My fiance is the best man I've ever known, and the assumptions that everyone here has made from hearing about such a small part of our lives are disgusting. I didn't come here for people to convince me that he's immature or insecure or any of that. I should have known better than to post here, but all I can hope for now is that he sees this. To my fiance, I don't know what I can say to make this better, and I don't know if you'll be able to heal from this. What I can say is that you are wrong in thinking that I chose you out of convenience. I chose you because you're the most thoughtful, handsome, intelligent, and charming man that I've ever known. Every single moment that we've had together for the last 7 years, every kiss that we've shared, every bagel that we've split, and every I love you that I've said was meant for you and was an affirmation that you are and always will be my first choice. I don't believe that you want to cut our lives together short. I think that you were trying to heal from the consequences of a mistake that I made, and then I inadvertently set a fire underneath you by forcing you to come to a decision by making this post. Take as long as you need to do whatever it is that you need to do to heal from this, and I'll be here waiting for when you're ready to talk. If you decide that this is something that we cannot overcome, I would accept your decision, but I know we are stronger than this. I love you so much. Edit 2, I know this is starting to get really long, but he read my open letter and got in contact with me to say that he's not promising anything except that he'll listen. He still refuses to see a therapist because he doesn't view our relationship as strong enough that there's anything to salvage right now. However, some people here have expressed that they wish they could give him advice directly, and I've convinced him to talk to others who have experienced this and healed from it. Update 2. Before I get into the update, I want to say that I asked my ex-fiance before posting this, and he said it's fine as long as I don't give away any details that could reveal us to more of our friends and family. I've always been the type of person who values other people's input when it comes to making big decisions, and he knows that. A lot has happened since the last update. After we spoke, he went completely quiet for around 2 weeks to think. The waiting was almost unbearable, but he promised that as soon as he had an answer for me, he would contact me. I wasn't allowed to come to his hotel to drop off food, try to see him, or have any sort of contact. When he finally called, the first thing that he established was that our relationship was over. However, despite our relationship ending, he still wants to be with me. If I still want to be with him, we can restart our relationship completely from the beginning with the slate wiped clean. In his own words, while you look back at our relationship and see something wonderful, I look back at it in disgust because you lied by omission every single day. Initially, I was ready to agree on the spot, but he insisted that I take the week to decide whether I really want this. His logic is that if I choose to restart our relationship from the beginning now, he will be my first choice. Later on in the week, it began to settle in what this would mean. I would go from fiance back to girlfriend. I don't know when he is going to propose again, and I don't want children until we're married, so I don't know how long that's going to be. In short, it would completely throw off the life plans we had. I asked for a little more time, and he doesn't want me to resent him in the future, so he agreed to give me as much time as I needed to come to a decision. This is a better outcome than I expected, and maybe better than I deserve, but I would be lying if I said that I don't wish things could go back back to normal. I've decided that I'm going to agree to starting over. It just really hurts that the past 7 years don't mean anything anymore. Not long ago, we celebrated our 7th anniversary, but this time next year, we'll be celebrating our 1st anniversary again. Edit. He read the post and wanted to address some of the comments. If we do restart our relationship, he won't hold anything over my head. It'll be exactly as he said, and our relationship would start over completely. He's so confident of this that he insists I leave him if he ever slips up and brings it up when we argue. Some people have said that being first is just an arbitrary construct, but that doesn't mean anything. Marriage is a construct, monogamy is a construct, etc. Something being a construct doesn't make it any less real or capable of inflicting pain. A reminder that this isn't about me dating people before him. He doesn't care about that. He cares that I knew him for years, that we had a bond in high school, and that he waited until we were in college so we could officially be a couple. But I picked someone else I barely knew. It's come up very often that the length of our relationship should have some influence over his decisions. He says it does because it makes it even worse. I never told him about what happened during those 6 months while we were together. On top of that, I wasn't the one to tell him in the end. We know everything about each other, so he can only assume that I consciously hid it from him. I'm not insecure, fragile, or irrational. The fact is that our old relationship is now ruined in my eyes. It's ruined because she took away my ability to make an informed decision 7 years ago. If I had known the circumstances of her return, I'm not afraid to say that I would have told her to go herself. Now I'm giving her the option to restart our relationship with me knowing all the facts. This time we'll be equals. Agreeable Singer said, "Oh, there is so much missing from this." There was a post from the guy that he took down where he said that they were a couple in high school and just couldn't date openly because of their parents. When she didn't go on the date with him, she was basically breaking up with him. She also admitted that Andy dumped her because she wanted a relationship, and he was just looking for hookups. She basically admitted that Ryan was right, and he was her backup plan because even when she started dating Ryan officially, she was still trying to get Andy to take her back. And they did break up because she couldn't handle starting their relationship over and wanted to just pretend the whole thing never happened. Boomshroom said, "It's wild seeing this posted again without a lot of the additional context that was extracted from the OP by the original commenters, which showed what an unreliable narrator she was and how she lied throughout the initial post. For a start, she said in the initial post that Ryan stopped talking to her for 6 months, but later admitted that she was the one who ghosted him. Then it turned out that Andy actually ditched her after about a month, and the rest of that 6 months she spent chasing him and trying to get him back. It was only when she realized that this Andy guy wasn't ever coming back to her that she reached out to Ryan again. She clearly treated him as the backup option. She also basically admitted that she chose Andy because he was more physically attractive than Ryan. The simple fact is that she stole his agency. Had he known what she did, he never would have given her another chance. I bet anyone commenting here disparaging her fiancé would be similarly humiliated if they were treated like this." Bending Outward said, "I'm not fragile or irrational is exactly the sort of thing a fragile, irrational person says to a bunch of strangers. I'd assume that rationality and fortitude would allow a fellow to hear that story, realize that he's already been chosen, already had regrets spent on him, and has the benefit of being a goddamn unicorn in her eyes. But what do I know? I'm just some dude on the internet." Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.